what happened is I have a problem that I can't fix, and I've identified there's a solution that was going to make me normal. So I made a decision to do that. And I've actually taken my first bit of action. I wrote down and started analyzing, with the help, number one, of a sponsor, some of my grosser handicaps. Now, I'll tell you to write this all down. Once I actually got this process done and started to look at things, I started to feel relief already. I started realizing how crazy some of this was, how holding it in my and for me, more importantly, was not only how crazy it was, but it's getting it out of my head, getting it on a paper. Those two things right there, I started feeling this sense of relief. Why hold on to it? Why let these things block you? I use this analogy, and it's probably not the best, but many of us might understand it. If you're growing a pot plant, okay, why would you have a bunch of weeds in your pot plant? Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's the same thing as me as a person is, I'm this beautiful plant, and why would I have all these weeds blocking me from the sunlight of the Spirit? Something that I don't know if I've really talked about or haven't talked about much is the role of a sponsor. For me, a sponsor is someone that is to guide me through this process. I think the most important thing a sponsor could do is say, don't listen to me, don't take my suggestions, let me help you understand the book. Sure, I have some experience in this, a sponsor might say, but let's look at what the book says. Because I start to see all these sponsors now, I don't know where they get their stuff, that it's definitely goes against the big book. And I'm not saying we know everything. I'm not saying we can't make improvements. I'm not saying I don't see some of the logic behind all this stuff. But it's focusing on, anything and everything but what I really should be doing. In that respect, I had two great people that were showing me, this is what you do. Don't worry about this other stuff. I'm not here to be your financial advisor, your relationship counselor. All I know is I used to do drugs and drink. Now I don't. Here's how I got better. Because if I didn't do anything, I just go from, being miserable on booze and drugs to being miserable sober. And that's the key. It's this change. Time does not heal all wounds. I'm going to repeat that. Time does not heal all wounds for somebody like me. Okay? So I got to do something about it. And if I'm ready and I'm nervous as all get up, obviously, to tell my life story to someone, then I've made some real progress. If you're at this point, definitely, have a little pride in getting over the hump, because I think the biggest hump is writing all this stuff down. Coolest thing for me was, I was sitting here and I was working on my inventory. I'd work on it for about an hour at a time. I brought it with me, and so I could go to meetings and get out and get this done. And it was always available, especially if I felt inspired or just the need to do something. So I'm sitting there one night at a club, a recovery club. This what on the weekends what I did at first definitely helped me stay sober, and these two guys, both my sponsors, sat down and man, they started telling me their story. And it's like I knew there was something magical about what was going on at this time. I didn't feel alone. For better or worse, it softened the blow. If you're a sponsor and you're watching this and your sponsor didn't do this for you, by all means, I think the first step in your sponsor doing a fifth step is you have to do a fifth step with them. I share a lot of myself, especially at certain intervals. If they're writing this down and you can tell the ones that are half-assing it or half-measuring it, and the ones that are really going to get this done, that's the time to do it, is to set it down while they're working on this. Because I'll tell you what, when they did this for me, I knew that it motivated me and it encouraged me. I guess encouragement would be the word, because it didn't come from, there was a little bit of inside work, but man, I knew that I was on a better path, I was doing the right thing probably for the first time in my life. So it was really neat to go through that experience and then go, because I'm going to tell them all this stuff anyway. I'm going to tell them everything because it's my butt on the line. I don't want them to end up back in jail. I don't want to end up nuts and just not be drinking or drugging. I want to get this all out. I want to do this right. So that worst case, it says a little prideful, but I want to have a good program and make it a little bit of a competition. That's just the type of person I am. I want to do it well. I want to be able to say, na boo boo, stick your head in doo doo. I did this and you didn't. Don't get me wrong. I wish everybody would do this. I wish everybody would try their best to do this as best as they can. And if you're a sponsor and you don't know about this stuff, don't take anybody else through it. Say, you know what? Be humble and say, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I've not actually done this. You need to find someone that's actually went through this process. Because I'm going to say this. The quality, instead of it rising in the program, and when I mean the quality, I mean how well are you working the 12 steps process, is going down. Where we don't have as great a success rate, and that's because it's turned into a lot more, I think, a little too much fellowship, which is part of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it isn't. It's fellowship, right? But it's also a program of action. Those are the two components. I need the fellowship, but I need to take some action. Some action too, in order to get results. So at this point, I went and I knew it was going to be a long process. So I went and I figured you guys got to listen to my junk. So we went out and ate at Taco Bell. Got our food in our belly and got prepared for a long talk. And I'm going to tell this man my whole life story. I was working on it in the shower many times leading up to this. I'm thinking, oh no, look at this. I put this on here and you're going to have to, I got to talk about it. After about 3 hours, I finally realized, we got to admit the exact nature of our wrongs. Going to make this real simple. Of course, we're going to tell our whole life story. That's part of it. But admitting my wrongs is looking at what should be the fourth column of my worksheet. When I was prepared to go back and look at my side of the street, was I selfish? Was I inconsiderate? Was I dishonest? And was I fearful? That's as simple as it is, And I still, it's one thing to acknowledge it. It's one thing to analyze it. It's another thing to admit it. That's where this process is. It's admitting my side of the street, my problems. In order to, because, confession isn't, and I use that word only as a parallel to what religions do, is not about saving my soul. It's figuring out I have problems too, like everybody else. I'm only human, and until I admit that I have a problem, which is like step one again. Wait a second. These are starting to repeat themselves. So I got to admit all my problems. And, in the big book, it says somewhere I'm bodily and mentally different. I think step one was admitting that I'm physically different and a little bit mentally different than others. But now I'm admitting my problems not as an alcoholic, but as a human being that everybody has. If you don't have someone that's you trust, don't do it with them. If you don't have someone that's understanding, don't do it with them. Seek somebody out. I thought about, doing the road of going and telling someone I would never meet again my problems. And this is all I got to say about that. Hopefully you can find someone you trust within the program. Look for the guy you don't want to sponsor you that's happy, joyous, and free, and maybe a little bit harsh. But does it right. And if he's not understanding, if you're anything like me, I'm kind of a big guy. It's not like I can't take him out anyway. Find someone, because it's not. Now that I've helped other people with their fifth step, I like to go line by line and provide feedback. Well, did you think about that? Did you think about this? This is what I had. And see, because I'm trying to help you become a better person. That's it. I hope that you find release and you let go. I hope that you figure that you need to work on some things. And I hope that with the help of God, you can work on them and grow. The fifth step's a learning lesson, for me, is that if I don't learn from my past, I'm doomed to repeat it. And I'm starting to already see a repeat of some of the other lessons I learned in the steps here. That's my take on sharing myself with another human being. Admitting it. I think it's more important to admit it to yourself than anybody. God already knows. As a sponsor, trust me. Let me say this too, as a sponsor, for anybody out there that actually hasn't done this yet, as a sponsor, I love to hear a good fifth step. I love to hear something entertaining. I lived a wild life, and I want to be entertained. I've had short, simple, sweet ones that work. Don't get me wrong, but share it with me. Only, not just for my entertainment, but because I want you to be a better person.